doing?
Very well.
Good.
I didn't bring my cup out to the country. I'm
Oh,
going to have it here in one of the cities, so I haven't used it yet. But
uh,
thank you very much.
I know you typically drink out of a larger, you like larger mugs than that, but that's, yeah,
it's fine. I
yeah.
understand there are
It's,
limitations on the merch front,
yeah, yeah.
thank you.
How was your week overall? I mean, it sounds like it had some ups and downs. I don't know how much or what you want to talk
Oh,
about.
it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually just very happy to be, even though it's drizzly,
Yes,
happy to be out of the city
yes.
for a couple of days. And we do have an exhibition opening next week, and so I'll be quite active
Right.
with that. Um, I have a cultural comment to make
Yeah,
that has to do with art and music
sure.
or relationship.
Yeah.
So there's a British painter who was a friend and contemporary of Gerald Lang's, and he is the same pop generation. His
Yeah.
name was Derek Boshier, and at the time in the 60s, when the British pop artists sort of got going and they were all kind of on equal ground, he was certainly one of the gang, right?
Uh-huh.
There was five or six, and he was always one of them. And he was the best looking of them
Uh,
all. Very good looking guy, tall, and he's working class, proud of it, and a very, very charming personality, right? However, although he did a first series of paintings that were quite well received, he never got the kind of acclaim that some of the others did.
sure.
But he came to America, he lived in New York for a bit, and he ended up, actually, he was teaching, he lived in Houston,
Uh-huh.
got out of Houston, but he was back in London quite a lot. So he passed away a couple of days ago. He was like maybe 88 or 89. I ran into him a few times over the years. We had a very good relationship. But he got extraordinary obituaries in the British press, particularly.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want to say the only reason for this, but one of the reasons mentioned was that he had been a teacher of one of the members of the Clash when they had been an art student,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
He'd done an album for them, and
Okay.
they
Oh,
were,
yeah. Okay. No. Yeah.
and later, a bit later perhaps, he'd had a fairly lengthy relationship with David Bowie,
Ah,
who, as a friend, he'd maybe done an album cover, or Bowie liked his work.
yes.
So, but this was what his obituary was pegged on.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just a question of popularity in super popularity in the music world. I don't say it's lending credibility, but it's a bit sad that people didn't say, he had a great career as an artist. I mean, they did. This was mentioned, of course, but what
Yeah.
was important
Yes.
to the writers was his relationship with these musicians.
I,
So
yeah. Yes. And I think, um, no, I think of a number of artists like that. Well, one thing I think something about album covers in particular are iconic. And so when you said if he did an album cover for them, something about that is just sticks in people's. I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, certain artists, Wilson Smith, Ray Pettibone, who get very strongly associated with a era or a music or an aesthetic. Um,
actually, as you're talking, it reminds me that one of the other artists of that time who did actually have maybe a more visible, longer career was called Peter Blake. But every time Peter Blake was in the news, they mentioned that he did the album cover for Sgt. Pepper.
Right. No, right. Yes. Yes.
Which was a great album cover,
Sure.
and it was actually very
Yeah.
much like his motifs or his, but
Yeah.
and
No,
that
no, I
when
mean,
he dies, that's going to be the
yeah.
obituary,
No, and I mean, and I would say, I mean, Andy, I would still say probably Marilyn is more iconic, but the banana, the Velvet Underground, Peel Slowly and See, that's still up there with among his most iconic images that people, I mean, people get tattoos of it still. You see huge blow-ups of it, murals on the side of buildings. It's a banana, but it's still.
But that's, yeah. But he's the heavyweight. He's the heavyweight in that.
Oh, no, that's true. No, in that case, yes, that flipped it.
He's the heavyweight.
Their cachet. I mean, that was.
If let's say Vincent Van Gogh had done a album cover for
right.
for a jazz singer,
Of course.
when the jazz singer died, that would be so.
No, and yes, Lou Reed wasn't Lou Reed yet at that time, and I'm sure. I mean, I have the reissue, but I'm assuming, and on the original cover, Andy's signature is probably bigger than it says Velvet Underground. I mean that. Yeah, in that case, he was the draw.
I mean, people bought that
for yes
for the cover.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah. No, it's just interesting. I mean, more people listen to music than buy pop, than follow pop art, except for, a few people. But
I also think it's a well, yeah, no, not every artist is going to tap into that or is going to, but the artists who do are also, whether it's sincere or whether they want just sort of that market of a rock and roll, you know what I mean? I mean, they trade.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean that's also with Derek. He was part of the era,
right,
that was actually preceded David Bowie and the Clash.
Yes.
They probably, I mean, what they got from a relationship with him was that he was there then. He's a groovy guy, and they didn't care whether he's famous or not so
right.
famous.
No, right, yes.
Because they were, so I guess
But no, but well, yeah. And then what about? I've been thinking a lot about musicians. Well, I guess just the line between straight musicianship and theatricality, stage props, costumes. And I'm agnostic on this. I love some really, really sort of experimental where they have characters. They don't ever break character. They only ever, even their press releases are very, all the way down to just an artist, a guitar, a spotlight, stripped down, very bare, confessional lyrics. I love the whole spectrum, but I think people have strong feelings one way or another, whether an artist should or shouldn't, or is obligated to have a shtick, or I don't know. What's thoughts on any of all of that, whatever that inspires?
Okay, this is what I'm going to say, which is maybe controversial. I think every performing musician has a shtick.
Yes. Okay.
And I'm thinking actually of listening to some conversations recorded now or then between old jazz guys.
Yes.
And they're talking about each other or a friend of theirs,
and
the way they held themselves, right? That's very subtle, but they're talking about showmanship.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
you see them, the four cats, and they're just
Yes.
playing along, and you might not notice that they looked any different from another
Sure. Sure. Sure.
but they had each of them. They have a hat. One of them has a hat. It's a pork pie hat.
Yes.
So I think that it can be incredibly broad and grand guignol and
Yes.
have fireworks
Yes.
and themes or it can be a cigarette. It can
Right.
be,
Yeah.
I mean, I was listening to Fred Astaire singing George Gershwin's song for him about a top hat, white tie, a black tie, top hat, tails. And I mean, that's all about how the entertainer is presenting
Yes.
themselves either as a extension of their real self with part of that, they're
Right.
using part of their personality,
Yes.
painting someone else's face. I mean, or being, Alice Cooper
Yes.
but I don't think it's anything new, because I think that cabaret. I mean, you think of the way
Mhm.
that people painted themselves, or the Moulin Rouge. I mean,
Mhm.
I think it's uh, now I'm going to get into very deep waters. I think even with many very successful classical musicians,
Yes.
they have a presentation personality,
Sure. Oh, sure.
which again may be quite subtle,
Yeah.
or the dress the young woman wears, or the how I mean, there are some younger players who have, they're very bubbly, they're very effervescent,
Mhm.
they're happy about what they do, and they're not like pretending they have to be serious because
Right.
it's music. And
Yep.
so all of that is showmanship. And I
Yes.
think that anybody that steps on a stage would benefit. I'm not saying everybody has it, but they benefit from it, right?
Yes. No, okay, but classical music is a perfect example because I mean, to me, and again, okay, I 100% agree with you. Even if your stick is me alone on a stage with a guitar and a spotlight, and I'm just wearing kind of street clothes, that's still your
No, that's
persona.
it. That's what I
And
mean. It
that is
doesn't
as
have to.
much as Alice Cooper. That is, I mean, yes, that's still your persona. But okay, okay, two things that brings to me though. One, people's actual personalities. I've seen, and I tend to see a lot of up and coming music. I mean, I tend to see shows, those $5 shows with a bunch of bands who maybe have never played or played one or two shows before. So I've seen everything from people. This is their first show, and they're literally kind of playing with their back to the audience, and
Yeah,
they literally are because they're pretending that they're listening to their amp, but really it's you understand you have your back to the and that's their comfort level where they are in their where they are, and I'm assuming they'll get over that. But to people who are just naturally big personalities, people who just naturally are theatrical, people who naturally, I mean, for instance, people often think a lot of this is some kind of artifice, and you've known me long enough to know I don't. It doesn't take any special effort to. This is just who I am. You right? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, it's
yeah.
yeah. Some people are naturally more. So when you're talking about classical music, people have very sort of traditionalist ideas, both with how the presenters are supposed to be, and it's supposed to be a very uniform thing, and especially when you talk about, you know, 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to play the cello at all. Women weren't in orchestras
Right.
a lot. And so first, just to introduce introduction of women, and of course, women aren't going to wear a suit like a man does. So then, what does a woman wear? Then women start to wear more and more colorful things. I wonder if I don't know enough about the world, but if there's tension about those stars who get more attention. And again, back to the music, people who think that it should be played in a sort of very straight traditional way. It's classical music after all, versus looser, more free-form interpretations, which I think is Well, I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Um I remember that some time ago I was at a museum memorial service for a benefactor who had been a contemporary composer, and he'd been a contemporary composer of atonal music,
Uh-huh.
like Bartok, which I'm not a big fan of. And
Sure.
in fact, he had given me his couple of his CDs. He's a terribly nice man. I found them very difficult to listen to, but then at the memorial service in the museum, it was a short concert of his work, and I wasn't the only person who was going there with a sense of duty, right?
Right.
And we were sitting on these little bamboo woodeny chairs
Yes.
with velvet cushions,
Yes.
in the afternoon, and I was hoping I wouldn't be seated too near his widow, because if she saw me picking my nose, then I'd be in disgrace. Anyway, but the orchestra, well, it wasn't an orchestra, it was probably five people. I
Sure.
think it
Yeah.
was all strings, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But to me, very, very young. They were
Yes.
students. They were
Yes.
students.
Yeah.
They were not only very, very young, they were very charming, and they were very enthusiastic, and they just took off. They took off with the music,
Uh-huh.
and gradually, not immediately, but gradually, somehow, by seeing them, I managed to shed some of my, I suppose, biases or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I began to understand the music, but I certainly started to enjoy the music
Uh-huh.
because of them, because of the way I was hearing it, but also what I was seeing. And I think that was a really good example of presentation being, they were good young student musicians who found this music very interesting and fun to play.
Yeah.
So there, I guess, you could go to listen to see music that you liked, and you might be put off because you felt the personality of the performer was being egotistical or patronizing.
Right. No. Right.
I mean, but how they, it in live music, it makes a big difference. I think it makes a big difference.
Uh-huh. Yeah. One of my first jobs, my internships when I was at City As School, was with a classical musician's agent, and I went to his office like 3 times a week, and you may look at an orchestra and see 107 people and think they're all dressed exactly like. Each one of them has a headshot, and they have an agent, and if they're 4th string, they want to be 3rd string, and they're ready, and it's cutthroat like anything else. I mean, it's a business. I don't know. Yeah, no, that was an interesting experience for me. Yeah.
Can we segue to the Pope?
Oh, sure. Yes.
So I was reading it was very funny. It was a very funny piece by this comedy writer David Sedaris.
Yes.
It was very funny, but he was one of a whole bunch of American comedians who at very short notice, like 3 days, were invited to go to Rome and meet the Pope.
Okay.
Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. It was in the news a bit.
Okay.
But, I mean, these are people like Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes. Oh, no, okay. I did hear about. Yes, I did hear about.
They're top of the line comedians,
Yeah.
right? They're not all I mean, I think one of them is Catholic. I mean, they weren't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. they were Catholic.
What was there a context though? Because I only
Well,
vaguely.
this is it. This is it, which is, I'm not sure they knew what the context was.
Right.
But obviously, somebody who was really, really powerful or important was able to get them together, get them on planes, right? And they go to Rome. There's a dinner that they're all at a dinner, like he's sitting next to Whoopi Goldberg, and she won't eat her food. He has to eat double. Everybody's deciding about, they're making crude jokes about Catholic priests. I mean, they're deciding how, they're comedians, right?
Yeah.
And they're just going to meet the Pope. They're not going to tell them jokes. They don't. In fact, what it turns out to be is there are also, I think, I don't know if there are many other nationalities, but certainly they're not the only people, It's a big audience.
Yes.
It's a big room.
Yes. Yeah.
The Pope sits there and talks in Italian, right?
Yeah.
Which I guess is probably translated to them, and makes some funny gestures, and they all laugh, and then they go up one by one, to say hello, or shake his hand, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
But David Sedaris then went to the most expensive fashionable place where priests get tailored, and ordered himself a whole outfit and asked a lot of inappropriate questions to the man who is the tailor to the Pope, what does he wear underneath, that kind of stuff. But it just it strikes me as sort of bizarre. I think maybe the Pope wanted to demonstrate that he had a sense of humor.
Right. Okay.
So it also strikes me that, he can pick up the phone and say to somebody, I want all the top comedians in America here in like 3 days.
Yeah.
And get it done. And that. I suppose it just struck me as being, I didn't see any images of it, so I can create better ones in my head, and each comedian wanted to outdo themselves at dinner the night before with odd jokes,
But no, I mean, of course, if you're going to get a bunch of comedians together, they're going to riff. They're going to, I mean, it's,
it was just, it struck me as kind of bizarre, but
no, I mean, yes, that doesn't surprise me that the Pope can just sort of order up. I mean, he can say, get me the top K-pop bands, and they'd be there. They'd have them there in like in a few hours. Okay, I do think this Pope, it is important to him to be relatable. It is important to him to be seen as like everyone else. That does seem to be a part of his thing. He's currently on tour, even though he has health issues. He's in Indonesia right now. He stepped in it a little bit because he was praising large families, which of course he's Catholic, so that's not a surprising thing. But people are, and he was, but no, but he specifically said, people who choose children over a cat or a dog, which people are now equating to J.D. Vance's childless cat. They're saying, oh no, now the Pope is. But he's the Pope. He is going to be in favor of. I mean, technically. He's not a fan of birth control. He's not a fan. He's got
a rule book.
He's got a rule book. So none of this is new.
There was a big story in the Times about the fact that he is a huge hero to the transgender community in Indonesia who are converting to Catholicism because of his embrace
Well, and
as they perceive it.
right. No, and I was
They
saying,
were all good, but they were going to see him, to try and see him in buses and cars, all dressed up. I mean, a big deal,
yeah.
which is I thought pretty impressive.
No, yes, and well, I think he's he's had his ups and downs. I would say from a Western perspective, he could definitely do a lot more. But he also, how do you
No,
write?
but he, as David Sedaris pointed out, he used this Italian expression.
For gay, the gay slur, yes.
Yeah, but it was like it was a verb, not a noun. I don't know, but it was like
Okay, I don't know.
David Sedaris said, "Look, he's 87 or whatever." I mean, you know.
Okay, but no. Okay, yes. No, he gets a lot of credit for who he is being the Pope, but he's still he does. Yeah, I think there are people who are hoping for more and who are saying, you know, well, he's fine, but who's next and what's next? And but no,
They want what some people, they want a kind of a old-fashioned, regal, imperial Pope.
Yes.
Who's totally liberal, right? Who's totally progressive.
Right, no,
if
right.
you have a semi-progressive Pope,
yes,
he's going to use old-fashioned expressions, you know, or whatever. Yeah. I mean, at least he's talking about it, for God's sake. I mean, you know, he said he blessed the unions.
No, sure, no, yes, and
he's walking a very fine line, because we don't know what he actually personally thinks.
Oh, of course, yes.
And I think he may be way beyond, but he's gonna, if he goes as far, becomes as progressive as he might want, then half the cardinals are gonna quit. You know, all those African cardinals will quit.
Oh, right. And I mean, and then what happens? Because this is what's happening in, like, I mean,
they form their own Catholic church.
Like the Methodists are right now, or I mean, churches are actually fracturing over this, which is, but.
Yeah, he doesn't want the Catholic Church to fracture. Other churches are fracturing over it. Yes, absolutely.
Well, and no, I obviously it's very personal for me. I have strong feelings, and
okay, let's talk.
No, I just wanted to say.
Okay.
There can be, I think, you know, this whole unity and blah, blah, blah. I think we can have differences of opinion, but if other people's opinion is I shouldn't exist, or I should exist but not in public, or I should exist and be myself, that's not a difference of opinion. That's an opinion about me. And that's not, I can't agree to disagree with that. You mind your own fucking business is my degree to, I don't know. So, no,
yes.
I mean, on one hand.
Is the left capable of that? We know the right is. Is the left capable of a position on anything where it's like, I don't know.
They've worked very hard to include identity in the modern concept, the right wing, in the modern concept of diversity, to very clearly say, my religion, my religious beliefs, including the ones that are discriminatory, that is a right, that is an inalienable right, and that can be discriminated against, like a hate crime, in the same way that immutable traits like your race, your gender, and it's not. You can change your opinion. You don't have to have that opinion. Thoughts and ideas are not immutable traits, but they have now worked that in. Is the left intolerant of things sometimes? Yes, absolutely. Is the left perfect? No. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is people who want to discriminate against others and then want to call that discrimination, want to call anyone who calls out that discrimination. You see what I'm saying? Like they want.
Yes, no, it's the I'm not a racist, you're a racist for calling it.
Right, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's also self-serving. I mean, it's like it's cyclical thinking. It's not. It's also magical thinking. I mean,
No,
but it's very, very brutal, and it's very powerful because
no,
they are saying that certain people should not exist, or
right.
certain behaviors, or certain. I mean, and I think. I mean, I don't. You know that more than I do about the American Constitution, but I mean. I thought that even those people who are fanatical fundamentalists when it comes to the American Constitution have to agree that these rights, there are inalienable rights, aren't there?
They don't believe in the Constitution anymore, and they're saying so openly. They don't
Oh,
believe in
okay.
democracy. They think we should be a republic. They think they're past what they think, and they're, I mean, again, this is like Project 2025, and these are people who are very, very closely aligned. These are the same people who go on Tucker Carlson the week before J.D. Vance. These are not far removed.
Oh, they're in a pack. They're one. They're
Yeah,
one.
and no, and they really believe votes are fine as long as we can rig it. But if we can't rig it, then we just need to control it, put in our people. I mean, so Trump has now said Elon Musk, he will assign Elon Musk to be this sort of government efficiency. No. Yes, no, this is
I
real.
know.
No,
I know.
okay, no, but then he's at the same time that he's denying Project 2025. And again, I don't believe he's read all 900 pages of it, but if he had, what he would see is what he's proposing is exactly that, which is take over all the agencies across, at all levels of government, all the departments, gut them, and then whatever's left, install our cronies. And that's exactly what him and Musk are wink, wink, openly proposing. And that's, I mean, it's a takeover. It's a hostile takeover of the government. They already tried it in the streets, and they're not subtle about that's what they want now. So no, they don't think of inalienable rights. They're not even pretending that they do anymore. I mean, it's and and they still get 40% for whatever. I mean, that's yeah.
Not getting my vote.
No.
The idea of having a conversation with Elon Musk and the next day saying, he had this good idea, and I'm going to make him the head of the person to take the government apart, right? And this guy I mean, he's pure, and he's incompetent anyway, and he's deranged.
Well, no. Then after their interview, Kamala Harris put it, or the campaign, whoever tweeted it, put it best when they said, these are two billionaire tech moguls who can't run a live stream. They're, like they can't, that he couldn't, he does, yeah, he's already run but that's what they want. Trump said it openly, which is now a National Labor Review Board investigation, because what he's specifically talking about is union busting. They tried to organize and you fired them. Ha ha ha. That's illegal. But that's what he's praising. That's what he wants to bring to the government. He wants to all the protections that federal employees have from exactly this. The protections, and it's not just for those employees. These protections exist for every American, so that the government doesn't just get completely thrown apart. If they get what they want, it wouldn't actually just be the Republicans, because they're very short-sighted. It would be everyone, because I hate to say it, but the Democrats would do it too. And what this would mean is every 4 or 8 years, the entire government would just completely reset. Everyone would be fired and hired. What that means to the employees and their pensions and all that is one thing. But what that means to all of us and the chaos of these organizations, the whole point is a continuum that has been kept in place for 250 years that they're completely uninterested in. They would shred the Constitution in a second. They're saying they don't like the Constitution anymore because it doesn't say they like when you say separation of church and state, they still cling to the Constitution and say no, that's not in the Constitution. But they don't actually care what is or isn't. They don't like it anymore.
Well.
And then Tucker Carlson is he interviews Vladimir Putin too. They're also like, what do you think of this Russian Times? Did you hear about this tenant media that all these right-wing commentators are?
I'm amazed in a way, although perhaps they've been following it for a long time. I'm amazed that whoever's now investigating, the FBI, why it's taken them so long, because this seems to be in plain sight. I mean, I guess they have to trace the money to be able to accuse them of, I mean, because they'll claim it's free speech.
Yes.
But if they're actually employees of a foreign government, then they have to register. I mean, they can still do it in a way, but they have to say, they have to basically wear badges saying, I'm paid by Russia to say
Well,
this.
no.
You know,
Well, okay. Of the group, 5 of the 6 are saying, "I'm a victim. How could I possibly know that?" But though there really aren't that many degrees, like you said, of separation between them and the money. It's not like, I mean,
I mean, there's a guy who earned nothing and then was suddenly, I mean, he was looking for jobs and suddenly he was given 100 grand a month or something to
okay.
supply videos.
In their defense, well, and this isn't much of a defense, a lot of their money comes that way. There's a lot of like, and again, it's not only the right wing does it, because the Democrats do it too. Since Citizens United, a lot of dark money, which is basically just big money, and whether it's left wing like George Soros, who is a very easy target because he donates a lot of money, but he doesn't account for where it goes. And the same thing with the Koch brothers and Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel and all those tech bros. They all donate massive amounts of money, and then it all gets disseminated, including through all these weird sub corporations like, and like Trump Media and Rumble. And so they probably don't know exactly where their money is coming from, but they're
But they're being manipulated by somebody who does, right?
for sure. No, and well, no, I think, and the most important thing is, here's the thing. Let's just say they're completely innocent. They've been on the payroll for years saying things that Russia wanted them to say. That's what they should really be thinking and reflecting on right now. You know what I'm saying? Whether they're, as they claim, completely independent, no one ever controlled their editorial content, Russia didn't have to control it. Russia approved of it, and they approved of it because they kept paying the checks. If they didn't like what you were saying, they would have found someone else. So regardless of how independent, you were still sharing information day after day that helped them. And you know what I'm saying? And that's, and most of what they did do a lot of like anti-Ukraine stuff, but much of it was just pro-Trump stuff. Why does Russia like that so much? Why is that? That's what I would really think on. But yeah, no, well, one of these guys, he started off doing Occupy. He was originally pretty, I would say, neutral, but left-wing even. He was doing Vice, which is kind of like young and hip, like, and kind of mainstream-ish journalism. But then he just leaned harder and harder to the right. And I think it is. You get these checks. And now he has a skate pool in his backyard, and he's a millionaire, but basically just for parroting whatever they want him to say. I don't think he says anything in the original or... And a lot of this is the same Tucker Carlson kind of like, we're just asking questions. We're just platforming interesting ideas. Make your own choices. And whether those interesting ideas are Holocaust denial or whatever, you take that ironic step back and just say, we're just making the space available, and no one ever asks, but how come only for these kind of people? How come you're not making the space available?
So actually, Tucker Carlson must be pissed that he's not actually being paid much more, because he's a mouthpiece, but he's free. The Russians don't have to pay him, right? Well, maybe they are paying him. I don't know.
Someone flew him to Russia to interview Vladimir Putin. So again, he's okay. So, and then let's just. I found a picture from 2018 of Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, who's. Yeah. She takes so much GOP money, by the way. She is, and she knows she's a spoiler. That she understands that her role is a left-wing spoiler.
So that's her income. That's her job.
That's her income. She goes after first Biden and now Harris over and over and over on Ukraine and on Israel, but she won't ever talk about Trump ever. But I found a picture of her, Vladimir Putin, and Michael Flynn at a table in 2018. I mean, it's
very good. That's one.
I mean, that's, and Cornel West too. He takes their money too. He said so. He said, well, politics is gangsta. I just want to get on the ballot. And I was like, oh, that's Kanye West
That's
level.
pretty naked stuff. I mean, that's right. So,
But these people, I mean, when you're talking about states where a few 100,000 votes may decide,
well, yes,
uh,
it's a dirty business.
what thoughts on the debate? Are you? I mean, I don't. Yeah.
I will watch the. I have it's at 9, I think. So 9 Eastern time.
Yeah.
So I can watch it. I
Yeah.
mean, I will. I'll stay awake to watch it. Um, my I think it may be the result may be as obvious in the Democrats' favor as the last one was obvious in the Republicans' favor.
So you're optimistic because I feel like the last few weeks you've been more like seeking to see my like or how am I gauging my enthusiasm and optimism? You seem optimistic. I'm a little trep. She called into a radio show and she just sounded a little. I mean, Trump. If Trump smells blood, and Trump is a performer, that's the part I'm nervous about. Is that Trump is a performer.
I've read about some debates that she
Yeah.
participated in when she was getting going, when she
Yeah.
was very much an underdog against rich white guys for the Senate.
Uh-huh.
And she was very, very smart and very calculating.
Yes.
And could be extremely cutting and even personal.
Yes.
So I think she is going to go over and over with with sharp but very brief cuts at his at his indictments, at his behavior to women. I think she's going to do it in a way that Biden couldn't possibly do it, and I think she can do it with a degree of contempt and humor that obviously is not going to change the minds of the people, but he might, if he's goaded enough, he could be, he could become just as well, could he be any more lacking in linguistic skills? I don't know. Doesn't matter. But I mean, you know, he had a press conference to discuss the economy, and all he talked about were these women's legal actions against him.
No, I mean,
minutes. And this is not on the table. I mean, this is not right now.
Okay, well, yeah, he's still talking about Joe Biden. He spent one interview. He said some variation of "I'm not weird" 11 times in a row. Like, I mean, he's so all she has. First of all she has to do, she doesn't have to call him weird. She just has to say the word weird, and he will be immediately triggered, and that it'll be over. But no, okay, I predict he will make some pretty personal, dog whistly, racist and or sexist remarks that he won't even that he'll smugly make because he's already agreed, he's already promised that he will. I think he will ramble, but he's still going to call it a success. I think he's just going to say immigration, 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 and economy, and economy, and economy. And the economy is a tough one. I mean, again, going into the next month, I mean, you know, gas prices are down, but grocery prices are way, way up.
He's obsessed with the price of bacon, which has gone down, which has actually gone down.
Well, no, but again,
he's talking about.
But and it's true.
He's never ever bought bacon. He's never in his life.
Well, no, he doesn't go into a store. Yeah, no, and it's so no. Okay, they did a summit where they laid out a bunch of groceries, and he's talking about the prices, and he turns around, he picks up a box of Cheerios, like he's not seen a box of Cheerios, and he's never seen himself food. He doesn't know what groceries look like, so he's not the person to talk to, of course, and he's a billionaire. But no, but I still, yes, if you talk about, yes, jobs are holding steady. Jobs, in fact, have grown for 44 months in a row. Wages are actually up. When you talk about the metrics of the economy, we're fine, but it feels not real. How does it feel to us? They're predicting that he's going to use some variation of Reagan's are you better now than you were 4 years ago? The problem was 4 years ago, it was the middle of a pandemic that he was disastrously. So most people are, even if economically we are belt tightening, most people are better off than they were in the throes of a pandemic that he was disastrously botching. So I doubt he's going to try and use that line, but I invite that. I want to see him try.
Well, it's going to be quite a ride. And
I'm still looking forward to the JD Vance Walz. I think that's going to be the real.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's going to be the real fireworks.
So, okay,
All right.
junior high coach versus Yaley,
Yeah.
a fake intellectual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Have a good week.
Have a great week.
I love
Talk
you.
to you.
Yeah.